There's a quiet group moving through the world who simply don't watch reality TV. Not because they don't know the shows, not because they can't make time, but because something in them never plugs into that current. It's curious when you pause to notice it. While most people can sink hours into strangers arguing, crying, flirting, competing, and confessing to cameras, this group feels nothing. No spark, no pull, no curiosity that sticks. It isn't snobbery. It isn't ignorance. It's a mismatch between what their mind values and what the medium delivers. From the outside, they're labeled serious, mature, or worse, boring. But what if the opposite is true? What if the people who don't watch reality TV are the ones who sense fabrication before the intro theme ends, who detect staged emotion like a false note, who choose depth without making a speech about it, who feel drained by drama instead of entertained by it? They might be the quiet ones, the thinkers, the watchers in the room who choose peace over chaos without rehearsing the choice. Here's what most miss: they're not all avoiding the same thing for the same reason. Beneath that single behavior, no thanks, lie distinct patterns. For very different psychological types show up again and again if you pay attention: the sharp thinker, the calm introvert, the deep seeker, and the sensitive soul. They aren't boxes to trap people in, they're lenses that help you see nuance in what looks like a simple shrug. Understand the lenses, and you'll see this boring group differently. You may even see yourself more clearly. The first type is the sharp thinker, the one whose mind can't stop deconstructing the show as it happens. They don't hate fun, they're just allergic to contrivance. Their attention notices production fingerprints the way a chef tastes every spice in a sauce, jump cuts that compress hours into a fight that looks inevitable, music swells that tell you what to feel, reaction shots stitched in from another day to heighten tension, confessional, sound bites arranged out of sequence, frankenbites that turn a sentence into a storyline, producer prompts disguised as spontaneity. The sharp thinker's brain whispers, "This isn't real," not because none of it ever happened, but because the shape we're being fed is a story built to maximize heat, not truth. They're analytical, logical, quick to notice holes. They spot acting tells, the extra beat before a shock, the smile that doesn't reach eyes, the cadence of performative vulnerability. They can enjoy fiction when it calls itself fiction because the contract is honest. But when something calls itself reality, while leaning hard on manipulation, their mind refuses to suspend judgment long enough to relax. It's like trying to nap under a flickering light. The mind keeps getting up to fix the bulb. For the sharp thinker, attention is a resource and honesty is a value. They aren't morally above anyone for declining the genre, they're simply incompatible with a format that depends on them believing what they can't. You'll find them reaching for long-form interviews, behind-the-scenes features, investigative journalism, or even scripted shows that explore motive and consequence with craft. They're not anti-drama, they're anti-manufactured drama. Their entertainment sweet spot is where skill meets sincerity, a craft competition where the craft matters more than shouting, a conversation where the pause isn't filled with a soundtrack, a story that trusts the viewer to think. The second type is the calm introvert, the one who feels the sheer volume of reality TV as noise, not music. Think of what these shows amplify on purpose: big personalities competing for the same inch of attention, emotions at peak, confrontation as content, confession as currency, episodes cut to climax every 7 minutes to keep you from wandering. For a nervous system that prizes steadiness, that mix is exhausting. It's not that the calm introvert can't follow the plot, it's that their internal battery drops just from standing near the speaker. They prefer soft over loud, slow over frenetic, meaningful over sensational. They find peace in content that breathes, a thoughtful documentary, a nature series that lets light change on water, long-form conversations where people don't interrupt, a quiet travel vlog with footsteps and street sounds. They're not avoiding reality TV to make a point. They're protecting a baseline. For them, drama isn't fun, it's emotional noise that sticks to the skin. Their attention budget is finite, and they spend it on stories that leave them more human afterward, not hollowed out. This isn't a stance against pleasure, it's a boundary in service of health. The calm introvert doesn't apologize for choosing what soothes their system. They know their social battery, their sensory profile, their limits, and they plan accordingly. It's not, "I'm better than that." It's, "I'm better after this." They can enjoy a competition where skill is quietly spotlighted, where the camera watches hands instead of fights. They'll skip the reunion episodes and, after the final rose, spectacles because escalation for escalation's sake feels like a tax they don't owe. They're not anti-people, they're pro-peace. They simply let their mind choose silence over stimulation when stimulation starts to sound like static. The third type is the deep seeker, the one whose attention hunts for meaning by habit. They don't need everything to be solemn or educational, but they do need it to lead somewhere worth going. If something doesn't teach, inspire, or challenge, their interest evaporates faster than a teaser trailer. That doesn't mean they're joyless, it means they crave texture. Gossip feels thin. Highlight reels feel hungry. Surface-level quarrels leave them wanting a why that never arrives. The deep seeker wants to know how people work, not just watch them break. They love psychology breakdowns, biographies, documentaries that follow a thread across decades, interviews that ask generous, penetrating questions, personal narratives that sit in complexity instead of picking a side and shouting. They want to stand at the edge of another person's world and feel it shift their own. Reality TV, when it treats people like pieces on a board rather than humans with coherences and contradictions, feels like mental junk food, crunchy, salty, engineered to keep you reaching, then empty. That doesn't make them better than those who enjoy the genre, it makes them honest about fit. The deep seeker may enjoy certain reality formats when the focus is craft and growth, a glassblower's failure teaching as much as their final piece, a chef explaining why a sauce broke and how to save it, a dancer speaking about discipline as much as drama. They're not allergic to competition, they're allergic to spectacle as substitute for substance. Their brain keeps asking, what did this add to my interior? And if the answer is nothing, they wander off. They're not avoiding fun. They're choosing a kind of nourishment that aligns with the life they're building. The fourth type is the sensitive soul, the one whose empathy doesn't have a mute button. Emotional contagion is real, moods spread like weather. For the sensitive soul, those weather fronts hit hard. They don't watch someone's humiliation from a distance, they feel it land in their own chest. A cutting comment echoes for an hour. A tear on camera is a tear on their own face in the mirror. Editing that turns a person into an archetype feels like violence dressed as entertainment. They go quiet, not because they can't handle life, but because something in them refuses to numb to suffering for sport. They don't like manipulation, judgment as plot, or watching breakdowns packaged for clicks. When someone is used for views, it activates anger instead of curiosity. You'll often see them joke that they cringe too much to enjoy the genre. The truth underneath, their mirror systems fire fast, their boundaries are still learning to hold, and their values balk at turning pain into background noise. They don't announce this like a moral platform. They just change the channel. Their empathy is not a weakness, it's a strength that needs wise containers. Sometimes they'll watch certain shows with a friend and process out loud, what just happened there? Why did that feel wrong, so they aren't carrying the emotion alone. Sometimes they choose formats that are kinder by design, community-focused makeovers where dignity stays intact, documentaries where subjects hold agency, conversations where consent and context are the rules. The sensitive soul isn't against entertainment, they're against erasing humanity to achieve it. So they protect themselves by steering away from what hurts to watch, even if everyone else calls it harmless. Here's the part that matters most, not watching reality TV isn't a character flaw. It can be a sign that you think for yourself, a small defiance in a culture that monetizes your attention by getting you riled up, polarized, hooked by cliffhangers built from cuts. Maybe you notice what others overlook, the edits that nudge, the cues that manipulate, the way manufactured conflict flattens real complexity. Maybe you refuse to let your nervous system be yanked by strangers for an hour because you know the bill comes due later when your mind won't quiet. Maybe you've learned to value your time like you value your money, you spend it on what compounds. This isn't about being better than anyone. Plenty of people enjoy the genre in ways that are fun, communal, even soothing after a long day. Laughter matters. Lightness matters. Gathering around a show with friends and live commenting can be its own kind of joy. It's not wrong to watch. It's not wrong not to watch. What's wrong is the idea that one choice proves superiority. The quiet group who opt out simply live differently in a way that often looks smarter and quieter because it is both. They know their attention's worth. They know their triggers and their tastes. They curate their inputs for their own well-being. That is not elitism, that's self-respect. If any of this sounds like you, whether your brain keeps whispering, "This is edited," whether you feel tired after too much drama, whether your curiosity starves in shallow waters, whether your empathy aches, you have permission to choose differently without apology. You don't have to keep up to belong. So, which pattern fits your reflection today? Are you the sharp thinker who can't unknow what editing does to reality? The calm introvert whose peace is sacred and who refuses to trade it for adrenaline? The deep seeker whose mind wants meat on the bone and won't pretend to be full on air? The sensitive soul whose empathy is too honest to convert suffering into entertainment? Maybe you're a blend, analytical on Monday, peace-protecting on Wednesday, craving depth on Friday, tearful and boundary-keeping on Sunday. Most of us are. The point isn't to pick a title. It's to notice your wiring and care for it. Choose the stories that make you larger, not smaller. Choose the inputs that leave you kinder to the people you actually live with. Choose the content that sharpens your eye for truth, softens your reflex to judge, and helps you show up better in your real, off-camera life. In the end, this conversation isn't about television at all. It's about attention. It's about whether you want your inner weather set by people who don't know you, or by values you chose on purpose. Reality TV can be a harmless escape for many. It can also be a shortcut to outrage and numbness. What you decide says less about your virtue and more about your self-knowledge. So maybe the quiet group isn't boring after all. Maybe they're seeing clearly what others don't feel the need to see. Maybe they're conserving energy for the hard, quiet, beautiful work of being human off-screen. If this made you think, tell me where you land, sharp thinker, calm introvert, deep seeker, sensitive soul, or a little bit of all four. I want to hear your map. The comments are open. If this shifted how you see yourself, subscribe. Let's keep choosing depth over noise together.